That day, when the Leon family came to the orphanage, my rare younger sister brought me a bowl of soup, then looked at me smugly and said, "Sister, you just stay here obediently." Watching her back as she left, the corner of my mouth curled slightly. My dear sister, you've brought this upon yourself. The day the wealthy benefactor arrived at the orphanage, all the children excitedly ran out to greet them. Only I, with a face full of red rashes, couldn't meet the people. The director asked, "Why did you suddenly have an allergic reaction?" I pretended to shake my head blankly, but I knew exactly who had tampered with my food. It was my sister, Lisa. In the previous life, on this very day, the tycoon Galvin Leon brought his son and daughter to the orphanage, looking for a child to adopt. At that time, I was chosen and went from an orphan to the eldest daughter of the Leon family. Not only did I live in luxury, but I also had a handsome, deeply loving older brother and a gentle, obedient younger sister. Later, I even married with my brother, being spoiled beyond comparison. Every time Lisa saw me, she would grind her teeth and hatefully say, "Why do you have everything, and I don't? What makes me inferior to you?" Therefore, in this life, when I saw Lisa secretly tampering with my food, I understood that both my sister and I had reincarnated. Outside the window, the children excitedly gossiped. "I heard Lisa saved the young miss of the Leon family. She's going to be adopted then, right? I'm so jealous." Under the canopy of flowers, Lisa held the hand of a little girl who tightly clutched my teddy bear. In the previous life, when a car almost hit the young miss of the Leon family, I saved her and gave her the teddy bear for comfort. But this time, Lisa stole the bear, caused my allergic reaction so I couldn't go out in time and seized the opportunity to save Galvin Leon's daughter. Through the crowd, my sister smiled smugly at me, probably thinking I hadn't noticed her sneaky shadow in the kitchen last night or the strange fishy smell in the soup this morning. The director sighed. "Julie, you're smart and obedient. I initially thought you would definitely be the one adopted." I dutifully replied, "It's okay. If my sister is adopted, I'll be happy for her. If Lisa wanted to go, let her go." Having reincarnated, I truly didn't want to step into the Leon family home again, because that entire family was sick. A moment later, Lisa led the little girl in and said, "Don't be afraid. Everyone wants to be your friend." My sister's voice was soft and coaxing. The girl, wearing a lace princess dress and possessing delicate features, looked like a little princess stepping out of a palace. That was Joyce Leon, the youngest daughter of the Leon family, 8 years old. She was holding Lisa's hand and whispering, "Sister Lisa, I only want to be friends with you." My sister stroked the girl's cheek, lifted her chin proudly, and looked at me. Joyce Leon, relying on Lisa like this? She must have thought she was guaranteed entry into the Leon family. Moreover, she saw this girl as a weak white rabbit, easy to control. But a white rabbit? Looking at Joyce Leon, a chill ran down my spine, because Joyce Leon was absolutely not a white rabbit. In the previous life, I thought she was just an ordinary girl until I saw her slit the stomach of a duckling with a knife, pulling out the bloody internal organs. I was frozen stiff, but she wasn't scared at all. Instead, she held up her blood-stained hands and whined, "Sister, why aren't you smiling? Isn't the duckling cute?" Joyce Leon was bloodthirsty. She liked to dissect living creatures, enjoying the process from their struggle until their last breath. The entire Leon family knew this, but they all covered for and spoiled her. At this moment, Lisa was enthusiastically recounting how she had just rescued Joyce Leon. The young miss was trying to save a kitten in the middle of the road. I quickly ran out and grabbed both the miss and the cat. If I had been a minute slower, the young miss might have lost her life. I just smiled and listened, sighing inwardly. "My dear sister, why can't you see that Joyce Leon stood in the middle of the road? Not to save the cat, but to witness the scene of the cat being run over and killed?" Suddenly, the door opened, and a young man walked in and asked, "Who is the one who saved my sister?" His voice was deep. The young man was tall, handsome, with skin as white as snow and a cold, noble aura. This was the eldest young master of the Leon family, Nolan Leon. As soon as I saw him, I immediately lowered my head and hid behind the others. Lisa, however, actively stepped forward, looking shyly at him and answering, It was me." Nolan Leon's lips curved slightly. "It was you? How would you like to be rewarded?" Lisa shook her head, feigning humility. Saving someone is just a reflex. "I don't need any reward. Just the young Mrs. Safety is enough. Such a lovely girl. Her family would be heartbroken if she were injured." My sister knew Nolan Leon liked this type of girl. In the previous life, I had also gradually found my way into Nolan Leon's heart this way. In everyone's eyes, he adored me like a treasure before we married, and after the wedding, he became a famous wife fanatic. Lisa once scolded me, why wasn't I the one who married Nolan Leon, but you? And now she was looking at him with the same focused gaze that I had in the previous life. The smile in Nolan Leon's eyes deepened, and he said, "What a kind girl. Would you like to be my sister?" He reached out and gently brushed the messy strands of hair from Lisa's ear. His fingertips seemed to casually graze her neck, leaving a slight scratch. Lisa's face flushed with shyness, and Nolan Leon looked as if he had fallen for her at first sight. Only I recognized that his eyes were concealing excitement. He was feeling the pulse right under that skin, imagining how the blood would spray in streams if her neck were cut. I bowed my head lower, afraid he would see me. Even though I had been reborn, I still instinctively trembled whenever I encountered Nolan Leon. When Nolan Leon held Joyce Leon's hand and left, Lisa immediately ran. "Back to brag, sister. The Leon family said they're going to adopt me. I'll be a rich young miss now. And Nolan Leon is so handsome, isn't he? Maybe I'll even marry him later." My sister didn't just want to replace me as the adopted daughter of the Leon family. She also wanted to marry Nolan Leon, just as I had in the previous life. But she didn't know Nolan Leon was the most dangerous person in that family. When I was in 9th grade, a few classmates bullied me. The next day, they all didn't come to school. They had all been in traffic accidents. The one who slapped my face had his leg broken right on the spot. At that time, Nolan Leon calmly stepped out of the honors class to pick me up after school. He said, "Julie, you're my sister. No one is allowed to touch you." It sounded like a protective brother's words, but in his eyes was a thick, dark color, something I understood clearly. Possession. In high school, a male student gave me a love letter. I frantically shook my head, not daring to accept it. If Nolan Leon found out, that person would definitely not have a good outcome. But the boy blushed and tried to stuff the letter into my hand. That weekend, I received a call from his number. When I rushed over, I saw Nolan Leon kicking the male student repeatedly. The boy was unconscious, looking almost beaten to death. In Nolan Leon's hand, he tightly held a sharp surgical knife, pointing it at the boy's finger. "Don't worry, it won't hurt too much." I lunged forward and pulled him away, crying and pleading, "Brother, stop! You'll kill him!" Nolan Leon held my hand tightly. "How are you going to advise me, Julie? Was it the left hand that received the love letter?" He grasped my left hand, kissing each finger, slowly touching it until I trembled all over. He whispered, "Julie, you belong to me." His burning kiss fell, and I closed my eyes nervously. I knew Nolan Leon had a terrifyingly obsessive and sick affection for me. There were nights I woke up vaguely and saw him standing in my room looking at me, sometimes even lying directly beside me. I always pretended not to know, but ever since that love letter incident, he stopped pretending. In the dark, he kissed me, forcing me to call him brother. The marriage in the previous life was essentially his own decision. Later, my sister was also adopted by a wealthy family. Although not as prominent as the Leons, they were still affluent. Yet, she wanted to approach Nolan Leon. At my post-marriage birthday party, she brought a gift, then used the pretense of being tipsy to lean softly against him and say, "Brother-in-law, I've always liked you, actually." Nolan Leon merely smirked, looking at her deeply. I immediately sought Lisa out and told her to stay away from him. Lisa was furious. "Why? We're twins. Why do you have it and I don't? I'm telling you, Nolan Leon will definitely like me. I just didn't want my sister to die," but she didn't understand. Nolan Leon, on the other hand, seemed to have found an interesting toy. He teased her all night, then dragged me to a hidden basement. It was filled with operating tables and all sorts of surgical instruments, sending shivers down my spine. He pinned me against the door, kissed me, and said, "Your sister seems to like me a lot. Should I cut her open to see what's inside? If I dissect her, she won't bother you anymore." The scalpel on the table was gleaming. I had heard screams of despair emanating from this place many times and had seen servants drag out body bags in the middle of the night, scenes that were chilling to the bone. I trembled and said, "No, I don't think anyone can compete with me for you. I know you only like me." Nolan Leon smiled contentedly. That time, I pulled Lisa away from the jaws of death. In this life, if she insisted on approaching the Leon family, there was nothing I could do. When the news of the Leon family adopting Lisa was announced, their entire family appeared. My sister stood among them and smiled radiantly. Galvin Leon was also present. The black suit accentuated his sharp, noble demeanor. He surprisingly asked the director, "I heard Lisa has a twin sister. Who is she?" The director pulled me out, forcing me to stand before the Leon family. Galvin Leon gently asked, "Julie, would you like to come home with your sister?" Lisa's eyes widened, staring tensely at me. She absolutely did not want me to enter the Leon family and steal her affection. Galvin Leon continued to smile, waiting for my answer, impeccably polite on the surface. I lowered my head, anxiously twisting the corner of my shirt, then suddenly hunched over, pretending to dry heave twice. Galvin Leon frowned and asked, "Oh, what's wrong with this child?" The director quickly smiled and explained, "Julie is allergic to seafood. She accidentally ate something unsuitable today. Other than the allergy, there's no problem, Director Galvin." Galvin Leon's gaze immediately darkened. "Is that so?" He paused where the red rashes on my face hadn't faded, a fleeting trace of coldness in his eyes. A prominent family like the Leons certainly wouldn't adopt a child with a health issue. As a result, I was not chosen. As they left, Lisa cried torrentially, hugged me and calling out, "Sister," and promised, "I'll come back to visit you often. Remember to take care of yourself." But her low voice, just for me to hear, was, "Dad never liked you anyway. Just stay here all your life. Don't dream of a sparrow becoming a phoenix." On the surface, I pretended to wipe my eyes in regret, but inwardly, I breathed a sigh of relief. That's great! I don't have to enter the Leon family anymore. Heaven knows how nervous I was just moments ago when I pretended to throw up. Lisa didn't know that Galvin Leon was a good person. In the previous life, when Joyce Leon dissected animals, he just smiled as if his daughter were merely playing with dolls. And when Nolan Leon emerged from the basement covered in blood, he simply told him matter-of-factly, "Don't get your hands dirty." His reason for coming to the orphanage to adopt was simply to find a live toy for his 2 children, and more importantly, a shield for Joyce Leon against calamity. Because Joyce Leon had been frail since birth, he sought a fortune teller who claimed that before the age of 12, she would carry a deadly curse, needing someone to sacrifice their fate to ward off the disaster. Thus, the adopted daughter was merely a scapegoat. I didn't want to repeat the tragedy of the previous life, so when asked, I immediately feigned illness. Galvin Leon naturally didn't want to adopt a sick child. He needed a healthy one to protect his daughter. Looking at Lisa's ecstatic face, I just smiled faintly. Since things had turned out this way, what could I do? Naturally, I could only wish her well. When I was 13, Lisa and I officially went our separate ways. She would return to the orphanage once a month, supposedly to visit her sister, but actually to show off. She would boast about expensive jewelry, then limited edition clothing worth tens of thousands. I told them not to be wasteful, but Dad and Big Brother insisted on buying them. Maybe I truly have a good fate, unlike you who hasn't been adopted yet. After saying this, my sister suddenly clutched her bruised knee, wincing in pain. Why do I keep falling? It hurts so much. Hearing her tone, I understood that since entering the Leon family, she had been constantly having minor accidents, almost hit by a car, choking on food, or falling inexplicably. She didn't realize that her wealth was being exchanged for her own body. 1 month, my sister didn't return. The director said she had been kidnapped and was recovering at home. I heard that because she went out claiming to be the eldest daughter of the Leon family. The kidnappers spared Joyce Leon and took her instead. When she returned, her face was bruised and she was crying and shaking. I could only think to myself, who told her to insist on being the Leon family daughter? She wouldn't listen to advice. When I was 15, I was finally adopted. My adoptive father was the principal of Basis Mesa Elementary School, a plump man with a kind appearance and a well-off family. He had a son named Farley Henry who wore an earring, had a handsome face, and a deep voice. Honestly, I was happy to be welcomed by the Henry family. Unfortunately, the Henry family suffered a massive fire. My adoptive father, Mr. Egan Henry, perished in the blaze, and I was returned to the orphanage. The director sadly patted my head. Julie, don't be sad. I'll find you another good family. One must know that children in the orphanage who are over 18 almost lose the chance to be adopted. If I stayed here for a few more years, I would permanently lose the opportunity to find a home. I choked up and threw myself into the director's arms. I also longed for the warmth of a family. Lisa came again, mocking me without reservation. You really are a jinx. It was hard enough for someone to adopt you, and you cursed them to death. Maybe you'll be lonely your whole life. Just then, the director waved from the courtyard and said, Julie, a new family wants to adopt you. Lisa and I turned our heads simultaneously, only to see the confident face of Galvin Leon again. Lisa was slapped with disbelief and cried out, Dad, you want to adopt her? But Galvin Leon casually said, Not me, but Uncle Jasper. He and his wife don't have children yet, so they want to adopt one. I thought if both sisters were in the Leon family, you could look out for each other. Uncle Jasper was the gardener for the Leon family. The director asked if I was happy. I suddenly remembered that in the previous life, the gardener took great care of the Leon family's garden, the soil was fertile, and the flowers and plants were incredibly lush. Having him as family didn't seem bad. I smiled and nodded. In fact, as an orphan, I had no reason to refuse the kindness of others. Thus, I became the adopted daughter of the Leon family's gardener. Outside of school, I would help the couple care for the flower garden. Joyce Leon, after coincidentally seeing me again, came over every day to play. But while I was working, she would sit nearby, cutting earthworms into segments with a knife, watching them squirm in pain, and laughing gleefully. "Sister Julie, I love playing with you." I couldn't bring myself to smile, only hoping she would soon tire of me. Lisa, seeing Joyce Leon getting close to me, angrily rushed over and scolded, "Julie, you're full of tricks! Trying to flatter the young miss to worm your way into the Leon family? Don't dream, the young miss only likes me." Then she smiled and asked, "Joyce, do you like this, sister?" Joyce Leon opened her big dark eyes and obediently nodded. Lisa lifted her chin proudly, but when she saw Joyce Leon still eating the ice cream I gave her, she immediately flared up. "Joyce, let's go. You shouldn't eat things others give you." Joyce Leon was dragged away, looking pitiful. Lisa glanced at me triumphantly, as if saying, "I'm the only one who can control Joyce Leon." But that night, I saw Joyce Leon standing in a dark corner, her eyes gloomy as she stared intently at Lisa, holding scissors and cutting a cloth doll into pieces. A ghostly smile spread across her lips as she muttered, "It's more fun to dissect them after they've been fattened up." A chill went down my spine. "Oh, Lisa, why do you have to provoke Joyce Leon? You might actually lose your life." Perhaps worried that I would steal her position, Lisa constantly tried to make Joyce Leon hate me. One day after school, she rushed over, her eyes red, and pointed at me in front of everyone. "Joyce loves you so much. How could you strangle the rabbit she cherished the most?" My sister claimed all the baby rabbits were dead, and I was the one who cared for them daily. The last image on the security camera was also of me. She must have tampered with the surveillance footage to frame me. Joyce Leon walked up to the rabbit hutch, seemingly devastated by their death. Lisa glared at me with an expression that said, "You're finished this time," implying I had angered the eldest young miss of the Leon family, and the consequences would be terrifying. What's more, I was only the gardener's adopted daughter now. Lisa was convinced I would face a terrible outcome this time. But Joyce Leon, surprisingly, ran over and hugged my waist tightly. "Sister, I like you." Lisa's pupils looked like they might pop out. Her face went from pale to green, completely unable to believe it. Things weren't as she expected. Joyce Leon should have been crying and complaining to her father to have me driven away. Why was she hugging me now? I guess she was questioning her entire life. I vaguely understood the reason, too. Joyce Leon enjoyed dissecting animals. Perhaps she viewed me as an ally. In other words, I was now liked by a young pervert. From then on, Joyce Leon clung to me even more, calling me sister sweetly every day. I tried to avoid her, playing hide-and-seek with her in the garden. That day, I hid in a patch of grass, planning to rest for a while, when I suddenly felt a breath near my ear. I startled and opened my eyes. Nolan Leon was standing right beside me, reaching out to pluck a leaf from my head and dropping it casually. I lowered my head, my whole body reflexively trembling, and said, "Young master?" His eyes narrowed slightly. His skin, exposed to the sunlight, was a sickly pale white. He deliberately leaned close, as if savoring my trembling state, his gaze carrying a hint of scrutiny as he asked, "Are you afraid of me?" Not only was I afraid, but I had goosebumps all over. Yet, on the outside, I remained calm. How could I be afraid? "I'm just surprised to see the young master." The faint sunlight illuminated his face, making it look strangely shiny. He slightly curved his lips and asked, "Surprised by what? Afraid I'll eat you?" His smile was gentle and soft, like a spring camellia, but I knew perfectly well that behind that enchanting face was a sick monster. In that instant, I had already mentally prepared my own coffin. Nolan Leon liked to toy with people. I didn't miss the hint of mockery in his eyes. I immediately offered a blatant compliment. "Young master has unparalleled charm. I'm utterly moved by your aura. My admiration for you is like a surging river, never-ending." As I spoke, I also looked at him greedily, as if he were a treasure. My experience from the previous life taught me that Nolan Leon only liked the white rabbit type who resisted until the very end. The smooth-talking flatterer type only bored him. Sure enough, I had fooled him this time. But that night, as I was vaguely sleeping, I suddenly realized someone was nearby. The familiar scent, a cold and seductive mix of cedar and amber, meant Galvin Leon was in my room. This pervert doesn't sleep in the middle of the night but wanders around. Does he think he's a noble of the night? In the previous life, he did come to my room, but that was after I had caught his eye. In this life, I hadn't done anything attention-grabbing. Could this be a test? I silently cursed in my heart, but kept my eyes closed, pretending to sleep, hoping he would leave. Suddenly, Galvin Leon chuckled softly. Still pretending? The sentence sent a chill from my scalp down to my heels, but I remained motionless. A moment later, I felt the bed sink slightly beside me. He had lain down next to me. Did he just test me? I endured it, then drifted off to sleep from sheer exhaustion. That night, everything remained peaceful. After that incident, my time at the Leon family was relatively calm, except for Lisa. Whenever she spotted Galvin Leon and me encountering each other, she would immediately rush over and hastily intervene. Lisa seemed deeply infatuated with Galvin Leon, so she deliberately mimicked my White Lotus personality from the previous life every day, playing the role of a pure, innocent white flower in front of Galvin Leon. She dared not show arrogance in front of him, but when we were alone, she would block me in the garden and say coldly, "Julie, you can enjoy the blessings of the Leon family thanks to my fortune. If you dare to seduce Galvin Leon, I will definitely strip your skin." I guess she was feeling insecure. In the previous life, I was the sole adopted daughter of the Leon family. Now, I was also living there, so she couldn't be sure how things would unfold. I curved my lips slightly and said, "You misunderstand. I have no interest in him. As for you, many girls like your brother, so you should play your role well." My words implied that if she wanted to be a White Lotus, she should commit to the act. Lisa glared at me angrily and said, "I know I don't need you to remind me." But I clearly saw her nervousness, because Galvin Leon still hadn't confessed his feelings. Honestly, I also wondered what her fate would be if she stayed in the Leon family. However, besides school, I also had to help Uncle Jasper care for the flower garden, keeping me so busy that I had no time to worry. That day after school, I went to the restroom to wash my face when the door was slammed shut. A female voice rang out, "The daughter of a gardener, who do you think you are?" The leader was Sandra, a famous rich young miss at school. She originally disliked Lisa, but since Lisa changed her name to Lisa Leon and seemed favored, Sandra didn't dare touch her, so she vented her anger on me. Standing next to her was Patrick, a male student from the next class. He was infatuated with Lisa, so much so that he was willing to be her man behind the scenes. He once said, "Lisa is the most simple, gentle girl I've ever met. Her happiness is my happiness." Now, he glared at me mockingly, "Lisa Leon is the eldest young miss of the Leon family. Who are you to upset her?" I understood that Sandra couldn't easily confront Lisa, and Patrick had likely heard Lisa complain and came here for revenge. Sandra commanded, "Why are you standing there? Hit her!" Someone grabbed my arm tightly, another pulled my hair, and one boy even punched me hard in the stomach. "This is too much!" I suddenly lunged forward, broke free from their restraint, grabbed the opponent's hair, slapped them repeatedly, and then bit the ear of the one who had just punched me. Sandra screamed, "You dare to bite me? Are you a dog?" I sneered, "Yes, I bite. Does anyone else want to try?" The entire group froze. Normally, they were used to bullying students from ordinary backgrounds, but they had never encountered anyone as reckless as me, so they were momentarily stunned. Just then, Lisa suddenly rushed in, feigning indignation. "How can you bully my sister? Even if she's just the gardener's daughter, you can't do this." My sister pretended to be weak yet tried to stand up for me, but a second later, she accidentally bumped into the restroom door and had a whole bucket of cold water dumped on her. This must have been the trap Sandra intended for me, but since I had just finished washing my face and was about to leave, the victim became her. Right at that moment, someone walked in and spoke, "Who dares to touch a person of the Leon family?" It was Galvin Leon. Just one cold look from him, and Sandra and Patrick immediately lowered their heads and fell silent. Lisa bit her lip, almost crying. "Brother." She was completely soaked and looked utterly miserable, while I was neatly dressed, all the bruises hidden under my clothes. If an outsider walked in, they would definitely think she was the one who was bullied the hardest. In that very moment, I suddenly understood. In the previous life, the first time I was bullied, Galvin Leon personally picked me up and dropped me off every day, letting the whole school know he was protecting me. and no one dared to touch me again. When I returned home, Uncle Jasper was busy gardening. His nails were stained with mud, but a gentle smile still graced his face as he called out, "Julie, come here and lend a hand!" As I walked over, I asked, "Is the new fertilizer here, Uncle?" Uncle Jasper happily replied, "Yes, we need to plant it early so the flowers bloom beautifully and smell fragrantly. Everyone will love them." I smiled and stepped forward to help him. After the restroom incident, Lisa seemed more relieved, and so was I. The only thing that bothered me was occasionally pulling back my blanket and finding an extra Joyce Leon lying there. The girl would often whine, "Sister Julie, hug me." Nolan Leon suddenly appeared at the door and said, "You're grown up now. Sister Julie can't hold you anymore. Joyce, go back to your room." Joyce Leon still wouldn't give up. "But I like Sister Julie. I want to sleep with her." Nolan Leon's face hardened. "Don't you know that sleeping together will cause her to lose sleep?" Joyce Leon hugged her teddy bear tightly. Her expression was darkening. As she replied, "Are you trying to steal Sister Julie from me?" I secretly sighed. They truly are a pair of 6 siblings. Their mindsets are no different. In the end, Joyce Leon agreed to go back to her room after a story. Nolan Leon rarely did a good deed like this today. Before I could even say thank you, he gave a faint smile. His skin was as white as jade, his aura refined yet containing a subtle wickedness. In his dark eyes, there was an emotion I couldn't understand. He spoke, "Why do I feel like the person I'm watching is you, and not Lisa?" I was startled, my heart tightening slightly. He smiled as if remembering something, then asked again, "Julie, has anyone ever given you a love letter before? Which hand did you accept it with?" I panicked. What does he mean? Could he remember the events of the previous life? Joyce Leon waved her hand in front of me, urging, "Sister, tell me a story." But the door was suddenly yanked open. Lisa saw Joyce Leon sitting close to me and immediately rushed over, saying, "Joyce, why are you here? This is the servants' quarters. It's dirty. You might get sick." Joyce Leon replied, "I want to stay with Sister Julie." Lisa angrily said, "Get down now. I'm your older sister. Are you not even listening to me anymore?" She roughly pulled Joyce Leon down, even slapped the girl once. Joyce Leon clutched her teddy bear tightly, her eyes cold, as if wanting to bore a hole through Lisa. Unexpectedly, she threw the bear to the ground and said, "Sister, I hate you now." That was the bear Lisa had stolen from me at the orphanage to give to her, and it was the item Joyce Leon had treasured most all this time. I could only sigh inwardly, fearing for my sister. From that day on, Lisa frantically played the role of the gentle older sister. Again. But before she could win favor, she was hit with continuous bad luck. She slipped on the stairs, almost fell into a sewer because the cover was missing, and found a finger-sized worm in the fruit she ate. She complained irritably, "Did someone curse me?" Lisa was furious, and even went to the temple to burn incense, believing she was unlucky. Only I saw that Joyce Leon was the one who smeared oil on the stairs, secretly stood behind Lisa, when the sewer cover disappeared, and bought the worm-infested peaches for Lisa to eat. I suddenly understood what Lisa taking on Joyce Leon's calamity meant. Even if there was no real calamity, as long as Lisa provoked Joyce Leon, the girl would make sure to create one. I advised her sincerely, "Joyce Leon is the biological daughter of the Leon family. It's best you don't provoke her." But Lisa wouldn't listen and accused me of mocking her. I thought to myself, it's useless to advise her. Perhaps wanting to prove her place in the hearts of Joyce Leon and Nolan Leon, Lisa became even more attentive to Joyce Leon. And then, during one instance of showing affection, she witnessed Joyce Leon dissecting a rabbit. Lisa trembled and asked, "Young miss, what are you doing? How can you kill a rabbit and dissect it too?" Nolan Leon also walked over. Lisa immediately ran to him, looking worried. "Brother, the young miss is killing a rabbit. How can she kill such a lovely rabbit? The young miss is still young and probably doesn't know the value of life. We must teach her." But Nolan Leon only glanced at Joyce Leon and the rabbit, then said indifferently, "Let her be." Then he turned to Lisa and asked, "Do you have anything else?" Lisa stammered, "No, no." "Well then, I'll take the young miss to wash her hands." My sister forced a smile, but her face was more awful than crying. Joyce Leon was only a teenager yet was killing a live rabbit, and Nolan Leon didn't scold her, he was even calm about it. If my sister had been perceptive, she would have realized Joyce Leon's sick hobby long ago, but since entering the Leon family, she was too busy enjoying the eldest young miss life and rarely spent time with Joyce Leon. It was said that Lisa furiously smashed objects in her room that night, causing the maid who cleaned up to mutter about bad luck. After that outburst, Lisa was suspiciously silent for a time. Then, one day, Nolan Leon texted me to meet. Unexpectedly, the door of the gymnasium was locked and incense was burning in the corner, releasing a sweet, lingering scent. Nolan Leon blushed and asked, "Julie, do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" I suppressed the feeling of discomfort and asked directly, "What did Lisa tell you?" Nolan Leon said, "Lisa said you like me, but we're too shy to say it. She also said that being in a confined space like this would make it easier to get closer, and you would surely express your true feelings." Nolan Leon stuttered, then bowed his head. "I'm sorry, I was wrong. I didn't expect her to burn that incense." Seeing his flushed, awkward, and utterly naive look like a boiled shrimp, I found it amusing. This boy truly has a simple mind. I glanced at the iron bars in the corner of the room and said no more. During the sports meet, Nolan Leon smashed the gymnasium window and jumped into the artificial pond with me, becoming the most prominent joke of the school. He even apologized to me profusely. However, ever since the incident with Joyce Leon dissecting the rabbit, Lisa began to feel insecure about Nolan Leon's attitude, so she intensified her efforts to push me out of the Leon family. This time, she truly crossed my line. On a rainy night, she called the entire Leon family together and pointed directly. "Uncle Jasper secretly entered my brother's laboratory to steal things. The Leon family treats its staff well. The salary, food, and accommodation are all the best. How could he steal from the young master? He's been going to the garden frequently recently. He must have been looking for an opportunity to steal. A person like this cannot be kept. What if he steals gold and silver next?" But no one in the Leon family spoke up. Everyone just silently looked at her. Nolan Leon asked, "How do you know?" Lisa boldly replied, "I saw it with my own eyes. Only you can enter the lab, yet he secretly went in and even dragged a sack out. Such a frightening person cannot be kept." Nolan Leon merely smirked. "A sack, you say?" I sighed softly. Lisa thought she had caught significant evidence, but she didn't know what was inside that sack. I knew very well because in the previous life, shortly after I entered the Leon family, I discovered Nolan Leon's secret. In that dark, damp basement, he did things that sent a cold shiver down my spine when just thinking about them. Every so often, people would carry those sacks out. Facing Lisa's accusation, Uncle Jasper calmly replied, "Young miss, I think you misunderstood. I didn't steal anything. The sack only contained fertilizer." Lisa sneered. "Who are you trying to fool? Why would fertilizer come out of my brother's lab? That lab is for science, not a place to store soil. Do you dare to show us what you took?" She turned back to Nolan Leon and Galvin Leon. "Brother, why is no one saying anything? Why don't you look the least bit angry? And you, father, why no reaction? Even if he didn't steal, entering a place only the master is allowed to enter is a taboo for a servant." If Lisa were perceptive enough, she would notice the look the Leon family father and son were giving her, the look of people watching someone who had one foot in the grave. But she insisted on clarifying right from wrong. "You can't always cover for Uncle Jasper like this." Galvin Leon, who had been silent, finally snapped coldly. "Enough!" He slapped Lisa straight across the face, causing her to scream, clutching her cheek and looking at him in terror. "Father!" "I just wanted to—" Galvin Leon interrupted. "Waking everyone up late at night just for this? It is not your place to interfere in the affairs of the Leon family. Everyone, go back to your rooms immediately." Lisa trembled. I didn't mean that." My sister's eyes welled up, but Galvin Leon had already turned and walked away. She looked up, searching for Nolan Leon's eyes, but he too coldly turned his back and left with Joyce Leon. Lisa stood frozen in place. The father and brother who had always doted on her were now completely indifferent. For the first time, Lisa felt confused. Joyce Leon's behavior, Nolan Leon's attitude, and the atmosphere of the entire Leon family made it increasingly difficult to guess. Clearly, she was the adopted daughter in this life, and should have held all the favor and love of Nolan Leon, but everything was gradually slipping out of her grasp. Lisa was convinced that I must have stolen what rightfully belonged to her, and she was determined to regain the Leon family's trust at any cost. I went to see Uncle Jasper, feeling slightly worried, and asked, "Is adoptive father using so much fertilizer lately? Will the owner, Mr. Galvin, scold you for using so much?" Uncle Jasper was diligently planting a clump of deep red flowers, as large as a hand. The petals were wet, as if soaked in blood, and the scent was sickly sweet and suffocating. He was humming a song, so focused that he didn't bother to look up. I could only sigh internally. A gardener who didn't listen to the master probably wouldn't stay long. The following days were relatively quiet at the Leon house. Lisa was busy trying to win everyone over, and then the opportunity she had been waiting for arrived. That night, the Leon family's conservatory was so quiet that you could hear the wind. Lisa happened to see Uncle Jasper heading towards the basement door under the garden. She smirked in the dark. "This time, I've caught you red-handed. Let's see you deny it now." She immediately pulled out her phone and took a few photos of Uncle Jasper emerging from the basement, a triumphant smile on her face. At this time, Galvin Leon hadn't returned, and Nolan Leon was also not. At home, he was probably in the lab, conveniently out of the way. In the hallway before the basement stairs, Lisa and I unexpectedly met. She held her head high, her eyes shining brightly. "Julie, you're finished!" "I took photos of that gardener adoptive father of yours, secretly entering the lab. That parasite treating the master's house as his own, just wait to be kicked out." After saying that, she intended to go down to the basement. I panicked and pulled her back. "Don't go. I beg you, don't go." I pleaded sincerely, but she just scoffed. "Are you scared?" I clearly tried my best to dissuade her, but Lisa stubbornly knocked on the lab door, dragging me along, and said, "Brother, I have something to tell you. May I come in?" Nolan Leon looked at her, the corner of his mouth slightly curved. "Come in." Lisa chattered excitedly. "Brother, I wasn't lying last time. Uncle Jasper really sneaks in here. I even took photos of him coming out tonight. And I've never been inside the lab before. What kind of experiment are you doing? It's so secretive." She babbled, her eyes darting around the room, but only a second later, as she rounded the screen, her smile froze, and she clamped her hand over her mouth. Behind the screen, an operating table appeared. On it was a man tightly bound, his abdomen slit open, revealing a mass of bloody internal organs. One leg was severed, lying just inches from Lisa's feet. Surrounding her were things that made her utterly numb, a row of cabinets filled with instruments. Of unknown purpose, another row tightly packed with glass jars and bottles of medicine. Her face was as white as a sheet, and cold sweat poured down like rain. Nolan Leon's voice was still gentle, but in her ears it was bone-chillingly cold. "Didn't you want to know what I do here?" In that single moment, she suddenly understood. This was what Nolan Leon did in the lab. Flashes of memory rushed back. When Joyce Leon dissected the rabbit, he only said vaguely, "Let her be." She suddenly realized Joyce Leon cut open animals, while Nolan Leon cut open people. In the Leon family, Galvin Leon definitely knew everything. This only had one explanation. The entire Leon family were monsters. Nolan Leon curved his lips, his eyes slowly darkening, and said, "Am I scaring you? It's just human anatomy research. It's also convenient for testing the new medicine for my father's company." This man abused his wife, beating her until her internal organs were shattered, forcing her to live with a colostomy bag. A person like this is worth less than satisfying my hobby, don't you think? Under the cold light of the laboratory, his pale skin took on a sickly white hue, like a demon that had crawled out of hell. Lisa almost cried out loud. The air was thick with a pungent, bloody stench. She was so scared that she wet herself. She cursed herself. Why did I insist on fighting for the position of the Leon family's adopted daughter? I brought disaster upon myself, diving headfirst into this pit. Then she suddenly froze. If Julie had been in the Leon family all along in the previous life, did that mean Julie also knew this secret? A terrifying thought flashed. Julie also reincarnated. Perhaps she knew from the start and deliberately let me take her place. Lisa's face darkened, filled with both hatred and suspicion. Lisa suddenly had an idea. She forced a smile at Nolan Leon. "It's just your little hobby. How could you be wrong? I'm your sister, so of course I support you. This man is dead. Won't you be short of a new toy? How about using Julie?" A hint of malice flashed in her eyes. Then, she was the one who tied me up, leaned close to my ear, and whispered, "Sister, it's not that I want to kill you. It's just that your luck has run out." I was tightly bound to a chair, sobbing, "Please, please spare me." Nolan Leon held the knife, slowly moving it back and forth in front of me. I trembled all over. Lisa smiled. "Brother, stop scaring her. Just get it over with." She thought the Leon family was full of lunatics, and her joining wouldn't make a difference. She would be both the eldest young miss enjoying wealth and a participant in the Leon family's games. The blade slashed down, but not on my body. Instead, it cut the rope binding me. Nolan Leon sighed softly, looking at me with a hint of helplessness and asking, How long do you plan to play this game? He untied me, gently rubbed my wrist, which was red and raw from the rope's grip, then kissed it and asked again, "Have you played enough?" Lisa froze. What are you doing? I'm your sister. Why are you releasing her? She'll tell others. But then, no matter how foolish she was, she slowly began to understand. I stepped in front of her and smiled. She started to panic. Her memories replayed like scattered pieces. When her biological parents died, she screamed hysterically, while I was chillingly calm. So calm that she had fleetingly thought I might have killed them myself. But we were only 6 then. She reassured herself that she was overthinking. Why the coincidence? Every family that adopted me met with disaster. Even the fire at the elementary principal's house. Did it truly happen in the previous life? Her memories were a chaotic mess, but then they pieced together into a terrifying deduction. Her face was white and she trembled as she looked at me. "Julie, it's you! You're not normal! You're a maniac, a devil!" I looked at her and recalled a few things. Since childhood, my parents considered me abnormal because I could calmly watch them butcher chickens and ducks without any fear of blood or the agonizing cries. But honestly, in my eyes, they were the abnormal ones. I didn't understand why father beat mother until she was bruised blue, yet mother passively endured it. I sincerely offered mother advice, just kill him, and it's over. Mother only widened her eyes, trembling and calling me a devil. She didn't dare act, so I did it for her. But mother screamed in panic and tried to choke me. In the end, she fell, hitting the edge of a table, and died on the spot. And just like that, my sister and I were left without parents. But I still longed for a family, only I wanted an interesting one. After that, I entered the Leon family. Joyce Leon liked dissecting animals. I told her, that's just a harmless hobby. Nolan Leon liked to dissect people in the lab. I always knew. Occasionally, when Nolan Leon left the lab, I would sneak in and gaze at the things preserved in formaldehyde jars. Perhaps it was a case of like attracts like, as they were particularly enchanted by my pure exterior, which hid a darkness even deeper than theirs. They carried out all the dirty deeds, while I was merely the innocent white flower. Everyone in the Leon family was twisted, but the one truly controlling these twisted people was me. Life like that wasn't bad, but Nolan Leon's possessiveness was too strong. He kept me locked in his room, clinging to me, wanting me to see only him. I liked him too, but control had to be in my hands. Later, everything returned to the starting point, the day Lisa and I were at the orphanage. This time, I wanted to choose a different family. The Leon family was good, but I was bored. The elementary school principal's school had a few missing students. It would surely be an interesting family. And there was Farley Henry, whose eyes held mockery and malice when he looked at me. Family members had to be taught how to behave. But, unexpectedly, his father had filthy intentions towards me, and the missing students at the school were all victims of him. Farley Henry knew but ignored it. I didn't want such scum to become my family, so I set fire to the house and burned him to death. When he died, his expression was identical to my mother's years ago, terrified, distorted, pointing at me and screaming, "Devil! You are a devil!" And I, amidst the flames, quietly sang. In my delusion, I seemed to see the children he had harmed wake up, surrounding him, biting off pieces of his flesh before the flames consumed him to the very bone. How could I be a devil? I am clearly a monster specializing in devouring devils. This is a world full of roaming abominations, where the lamb screams in the wolf's mouth. And those like me, born knowing how to dissect, are the perfect tools to deal with the maggots. Mother, why didn't you like me? I clearly always longed for a family. Egan Henry was dead. Farley Henry went mad and was sent to a mental institution. So, who should I choose as my family this time? That's when Uncle Jasper appeared, and I returned to the Leon house. I didn't expect Uncle Jasper to be so immersed in gardening, even finding his own fertilizer. He didn't have the power of the Leon family. It would be dangerous if he was discovered. Finding a suitable family. It was truly difficult. At this moment, Lisa looked at me, her eyes filled with fear, questioning, "You killed father, didn't you?" I smiled and replied, "Yes. I also burned down the Henry family's house. Scum like that doesn't deserve to live. Oh, and I also reincarnated. Are you satisfied with the family I arranged for you?" Lisa suddenly understood everything, her lips trembling, unable to utter a word. Everything after reincarnation was a lie, just a trap I set. In fact, when I saw Nolan Leon and the others at the orphanage again, I didn't tremble from fear, but from excitement. Lisa burst into tears, screaming, You devil! You are the biggest devil! Brother, save me! Don't let her fool you! She'll kill everyone! The tall man embraced me from behind. The icy cold scent of snow and cedar enveloped me. He said indifferently, "Don't call me brother. That's not a title you're allowed to use. My only sister is Julie." Nolan Leon had also reincarnated. Or rather, he was slowly recalling his memories of the previous life, and perhaps he felt that the person worth saving should have been me all along. From the beginning, Nolan Leon entering my room was due to a vague sense of familiarity. Then, one night, half a month ago, he remembered everything. In my sleep, my wrists were bound. He lifted my chin, almost greedily taking my lips, and said, "Julie, why did you want to leave me?" Joyce Leon walked in, hugging her teddy bear, her gloomy eyes fixed. "On me, sister." "Why did you give my teddy bear to someone else?" Both siblings had remembered. In the darkness, his deep voice, like a demon, offered an olive branch. "Come back to the Leon family. Come back to us. Only we are the most suitable to be together." Perhaps it was true. A compatible family is hard to find. The Leon family and I, like a seductive flower grown from rotting mud, are forever drawn to our own kind. Lisa was frantic, her fearful eyes seeming to sink. She screamed hysterically, "Lunatics! Lunatics!" After cursing, she began to cry and plead, "I'm sorry. Sister, I shouldn't have provoked you. Please spare me." I bent down and smiled. "So, how should I deal with you?" Nolan Leon tightly wrapped his arms around my waist, resting his chin on my shoulder, whispering, "Whatever Julie wants." He kissed my temple, his breath hot. Blood stained the floor. Lisa's cries echoed in the dark basement. Amidst the smell of formaldehyde and the pungent scent of blood, Nolan Leon and I kissed. The severed body parts around us were like offerings. The starry sky outside was our witness, where galaxies flowed, nebulae, spun endlessly, and stars were born and died in infinite darkness. The universe is born from destruction, time and again, and in this creative world, we are each other's eternity. Half a month later was Joyce Leon's birthday party. Uncle Jasper's action of finding his own fertilizer had been noticed by outsiders. In the end, Galvin Leon was the one who handled it. Otherwise, Uncle Jasper wouldn't have survived. As for me, I officially became the adopted daughter of the Leon family. Nolan Leon casually mentioned some business matters. The Patrick and Sandra families were being manipulated by him. Their companies faced continuous problems, and the Leon family seized the opportunity to swallow a considerable amount of their stock. Joyce Leon smiled slyly and said, "You're my sister again." I smiled and gave her the birthday gift I had prepared, a new teddy bear exactly like the old one. Joyce Leon immediately hugged it, unable to let go. Suddenly, she glanced at Lisa and said, "Hey, I want some ice cream. Go down and get some for me." Lisa glared. "Why? This is dinner. Why should I?" Before she could finish, Joyce Leon picked up a steak knife and, with a thud, plunged the tip into the table right between Lisa's index and middle fingers. Lisa cursed, then reluctantly went to fetch the ice cream. Joyce Leon stuck out her tongue, making a ghostly face. It was truly a lively dinner. Family, after all, must be loud to be happy. Under the candlelight and bright lights, the whole family gathered around the table, everyone smiling. It was truly a happiness to be with family. We will be a family forever.